Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Oh,
Hello, how are you?
hey Rebecca, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Is my audio okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. I can see. Uh, hey people.
Everyone.
I see people showing up.
Yay.
Oh my
I'm
god,
so
I
glad that we're
feel
getting to do
it's
this.
yeah, it's going to be really, 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 really good. And we are going to talk about money.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, please tell us who you are and how it happened because, yeah, you're a spiritual money mentor. How it happened?
Yeah, I would love to. So there's a lot there, so I'll keep it short and sweet. I grew up on the system really poor, like on government assistance. My mom was a single mom of 7 children. So there was times where, the only thing that we had was each other, right? It was definitely, and we grew up in one of the most crime-ridden areas in the country of the United States as well. So, there wasn't really a clear path out of that poverty for me. It wasn't until I got on the hamster wheel of life, I started working at the age of 18 because I had a daughter young. I had my daughter at 18, so I started on the corporate hamster wheel and was just like going, going, going. And about 5 years in or so is when I was kind of at this crossroads where I was burning myself out, just I was moving up in the company, but I realized that that wasn't the life that I wanted to live, was to be working all of the time and not getting to spend any time with my daughter. And it was about that period of time, just as the universe would align, where my mentor came into my life. And he saw more in me than I saw in myself, and he knew the way, right? Like he had the path. And so we sat down, we set goals, we worked together, we did things that I had never done before with anyone else. That's when I realized the power of a mentor, right? So anyway, that really changed the trajectory of my whole life. I'm still in the area of finance. I've been working in that area for about 15 years now. Have an incredible, successful business outside of the online space, as well as now bringing all of the knowledge and the wisdom that I have learned, working with high net worth individuals, working with people in the corporate world, bringing that to the online space and really helping other women to understand the differences between the mindsets and the way that, the energy and the frequency and all of that, as it relates to people who have a lot of money and then those who don't, because that's really what I've been studying for about 15 years now.
Mhm. Okay, so what's that difference? Tell us the secret
There's
behind the
one
people
thing,
who
that's it. No. Yeah, it honestly, if it boiled down to just a couple things, it's really all about your relationship with money, right? And you know this as a money expert as well, right? It's about our programming around money and our relationship around money. See, I grew up really poor. And so I was programmed to believe that it was really hard to make money. I watched that
Mhm.
take place in my household, right? And so whenever I saw people through the years who don't have a lot of money being in the corporate world, uh, it was always their relationship towards money. And I started to pick up on that. The way that they spoke about money, their energy around money, the way that they felt around money was the biggest difference. People saying things like, well, it must be nice to have that kind of money, or, it's hard to make money and hard work is what equals success. And I have to sacrifice for success. And those are things that become, of course, self-fulfilling prophecies, right? Whereas the individuals who have more money than they know what to do with are the ones who think about it very differently. Their relationship with money is very different. And it's all about, understanding that money is a resource to be used for whatever you want to use it for, right? And they don't have that same level of attachment to it. They understand that it comes and it needs to flow. Money flows, right? It comes in, it goes out. They don't have that same level of, again, kind of restriction around money that people who don't have it have. I've also realized that the people who don't have money are the ones who think about it the most, right? Because they have so much of an attachment around what it means and that it means something about them if they don't have money. And it's all about really the identity of that they have chosen to adopt, and their relationship with money. So I can go a little bit more into identity around money if you want me to, because that's a really important topic as well, I think.
That is, but maybe let's start with the start and let's say, okay, I'm here, I'm watching this live, I I really struggle with my finances. How do I start? How do I change my relationship with money?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I actually have a process that I walk people through, and I'd love to share it because that is really from A to Z how to do that. If you want me to go ahead and share that, I
Oh,
can do that.
please do like people who are watching us. Yeah, if you have any questions, maybe let's like say it that. If you have any questions, anything is you want to want more, right? You want to
Yes.
open up yourself for the possibility of wanting more. Type in the question, and yeah, me and Rebecca um, will be very happy to help you and to answer any questions. And
Awesome.
I'm excited for this process.
Me too. Me too. Okay, so a few years ago, I actually was in a meditative state, and I downloaded this process from the universe. This was something that was that came through me in order to bring to the world. So this is something I've been talking a lot about in my different programs, and it really truly is a 5-step process. It's called the Align method. So Align is an acronym that spells out the word align, right? And so we're going to use this 5-step process to be able to begin shifting any area of your life that you want to shift, but we'll focus on money for the sake of our conversation today. So we start with A, which is pillar number 1. That stands for awareness. So if you want to change your financial life, we have to understand what are some of the things you have to become aware of, the things that are actually in the way of you being where you want to be right now. So those are things like limiting beliefs, right? The things that we just talked about, money stories, your story and your relationship towards money. What does that all look like right now? And one of the easiest ways to figure out what your story is around money is really just what do you say to yourself about money often? You know, when you think about your relationship with money, when you think about money in general, what are some of the things that you repeat to yourself? Or what are some of the things that you heard a lot growing up that you continue to repeat? So some of the common things around this is I'm just not good with money, or, you know, I don't come from a wealthy family, and so therefore I'm not going to be wealthy, right? These are all things that I said to myself as well. So, you know, I had to overcome a lot of this. So it's really important. And then also your identity around money, which is kind of the piece that we touched on a little bit earlier. Your identity around money is important. The phrases that you say after the words I am, right? That tells you what your identity. So I am not good with money. I am broke. I am poor, right? Can you hear how that's a story around money? Because the only way for those things to be ultimately true, true with a capital T, meaning, you know, it's the ultimate truth, is that it has to be true for everyone in the universe. Otherwise, it's not an ultimate truth. It is simply just a belief that you have continued to repeat over and over to yourself that you have decided to take on as your truth. And the beauty of that is because you have had the power to do that, you have the power to reframe it. You have the power to move forward. So that's step 1, is really becoming aware of what it is that's in the way of you reaching your financial goals. And of course, I have different ways of, you know, helping individuals through this, but there's a slew of different things that we look at. But I would say the most important is looking at your limiting beliefs and what you say to yourself around money on a consistent basis. I'm broke, I don't have enough, you know, all of those things. I'm not worthy. Who am I to charge that much? Those kinds of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a lot. A
Awesome.
lot.
Okay.
Totally.
So once you have become aware of the things that are in the way, then we move on to pillar 2, which is L. Again, we're spelling out the word align here. So now we want to let go of these blocks. So again, I have a process to really help you figure out what's in the way. Now we want to let them go. So let's just stay on the topic of limiting beliefs, because I think everyone can resonate with having limiting beliefs. A limiting belief, by the way, is just a belief that limits you. It's a story you've been telling yourself over and over that limits where you're going, right? So if you want to let that go, one of the biggest things that is going to help with that process is to begin questioning that belief and starting to loosen the grip on it. So again, when we have a specific identity around money, let's say we say things like, I am broke, right? Or I'm not capable of creating the business of my dreams, or whatever it is. We'll stick with I am broke, right? When we say those words over and over, those become self-fulfilling prophecies, the words that we say after the words I am. So what we really want to look at is that ultimately true? Is that ultimately true that you're not good with money? Is it ultimately true that you're not capable of what it is that you want? This is one of the quickest ways to begin to loosen the grip. And the reason I say that is because, were you stamped at birth? Like, did God, when you came out of your mother's womb, like put a stamp on your head that said like, not worthy, like not capable, not able to do these things, right? Like, of course not. And so if that's not true, then it's just a belief that you've chosen to adopt. So what you can do instead is begin to reframe it, to begin to shift it, right? Begin to tell yourself a new story. And that's what leads us into step number 3. Pillar number 3 of the Align method is I, which stands for identify where you want to go instead. Okay. So now that you've become aware of the things that you've been telling yourself that are limiting you, you've begun to loosen the grip on them, let them go, right? Now you want to identify, where do I want to go instead? What is a more empowering belief that I can adopt? What's something that I can do instead of this? If I've been telling myself over and over and over for my whole life that I'm not capable of my dream business, and I don't want to believe that story anymore, what do I want to believe? Well, I want to believe that it's possible for me, right? If it's possible for someone else, it's possible for me. And so you can begin to choose different stories, and kind of even a tangible way of doing this, right, is going through this Align method, is literally just to write down, what do I want to believe instead? You can have it side by side on a paper. Here's what I don't want, here's what I want to let go of, and here's what I want to choose instead. Okay, because people, when they start going through this process, they find a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of stories they've been telling themselves a lot of times. Okay, so this can be a very eye-opening process once you start diving into this. So I want to pause for a second and see if anyone has any questions, or if you have anything that you want to add, and then I'll continue on in the pillars.
So far, no. I'm here watching the chat, and not yet.
Okay, good.
But I'm sure.
That's okay. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing anyone.
They will come.
Okay, awesome. So what we want
to
do.
So maybe let's sum up a little bit, right? So first, yeah, you identify where you are. Then,
right,
what limits you? And
correct.
Then, where you want to go.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have those 3 steps.
Yeah. So it's almost like I equate it to a GPS system, right? If you are plugging a GPS, if you're plugging a destination into your GPS, the first thing that it's going to ask you is, where are you starting? What's your starting point? So some people want to know, like, why do I have to uncover all this? Well, because it's really important to know, right, where you're starting so that you can move in the right direction, right? The universe is going to begin to give you guidance and direction once it knows where you're starting. Okay, so we want to identify and become aware of the things that are in the way, let them go, identify where we want to go instead. And then we move into pillar number 4, which is G, and that stands for getting into inspired action. So now that I know where I want to go, okay, it's like, okay, I want to believe that it's possible for me to go and create the business of my dreams. Now I need to get into inspired action towards that goal, because nothing changes in life unless we change, right? Unless we take action. So, and it's not about taking action just to take action and just moving to move. It's allowing the universe to begin to guide you. It's allowing your higher self or God or whatever, you resonate with, of course. That part of it is of course up to you, right? And your belief systems, but beginning to move towards those goals. And so how would the version of me who does have her dream business, how would she show up today? How would she act? How would she be doing things that are different than the way that I'm doing them now? And then beginning to act in accordance with that. It's called acting as if, right? It's one of the fastest ways to begin to manifest our desires is to act as though we're already there. Because basically what you're doing when you're getting into inspired action is you're literally telling the universe, this is what I want. This is who I am now. And the universe responds to who it is that we believe that we are, right? The universe, we're a lot of times giving conflicting messages to the universe when we're trying to, manifest things, because we're not showing up as the version of us that already has our goals. And so that's going to be really important, is showing up as the version of you, getting into inspired action. So using things like, intuitive gifting, human design is another way that I help my clients, right? So we use human design, we use different ways of tapping into your intuition so that you know and can listen and can hear for the guidance that's coming, right? So that you can move in accordance with where it is that your higher self is guiding you. And then from that point, what normally ends up happening is you start taking action, right? You start taking action towards your goals. You've cleared out a lot of your blocks. You've begun to move in accordance with your higher self. And then you start accomplishing your goals. You start having money come in. You start, and again, this is a process that can take some time, but ultimately you begin to achieve your goals. So money starts flowing in. Now we want to move on to number 5, which is N, and that stands for normalizing and stabilizing the wealth as it comes in. Because the thing is that, when we, and this is where nervous system regulation comes in, and this part is not something that we want to, just move past, because our nervous systems are a big part of why it is that we can step out of our comfort zone. We have to be able to get our nervous systems on board with the expansion, because there's certain things, especially if you're anything like me and you've come from maybe an environment where money equals chaos, or, there was a lot of trauma around money. It's going to be important for you to recognize that one of the reasons that you'll cycle through certain paradigms of lack in your life could be because of nervous system dysregulation around money. And the thing is that anything that is unfamiliar to the nervous system is unsafe. So anything that is unfamiliar to
We have a question. What is the acronym for that 5-step process? It was alive. And I think you're muted, Rebecca. Or maybe I am. Guys, can you? Oh, like I'm. Okay. Oh yeah, looks like I'm here and Rebecca left. Okay. Let me reinvite Rebecca. The acronym, Irina, the acronym was ALIVE. Oh, we have you
I'm
back.
back. I don't know what happened. It cut me off. I saw someone asking about the
The
acronym.
acronym was ALIVE, right?
Yes, we're spelling out the word align, and I'll finish the N and then I'll go back through so everyone knows what we're talking about. So N is normalizing and stabilizing this new version of you, this new wealth. And so anything that is unfamiliar to the nervous system is unsafe. Okay, this is tied way back. This is tied to the deepest part of our brain. It's tied to survival. So we cannot mindset our way out of a nervous system response. That's why, sometimes we end up doing certain things and we don't necessarily understand why we keep repeating cycles over and over, right? Because our nervous system is not necessarily on board. So we have to be able to normalize these conversations around wealth, normalize the money that's coming in so that we don't self-sabotage. This is what happens to lottery winners. My father hit the lottery 10, 15 years ago, something like that, right? But when you don't have the proper nervous system regulation and you don't have the proper identity around money, the proper beliefs around money, what happens is your nervous system goes into overdrive. Your identity around money of I'm poor, I'm not worthy of this, whatever, comes into play. And then you will self-sabotage and quite literally just repel the money that has come into your life, right? So we have to be able to get our nervous systems on board with having a lot of money. The way that this might show up for you is like it did for me when I didn't know this in the beginning of my mindset and personal growth journey. And so I started manifesting more and more money, but I would then go and spend it all because I literally didn't feel safe holding on to the wealth that I was creating. So it's really important to make sure that we're following each and every one of these steps, because then, and another really good way to normalize this is getting around people who are having these conversations, right? But we want to make sure that we're going through this process in its entirety. And that's what allows for us to uncover the things that are in the way, begin normalizing this, and then you can actually repeat the process. So once you, like, say you're trying to get to $10,000 months, you go from say 0 to $10,000 months. When you get to $10,000 months in your business, you might have a whole other set of beliefs that comes up. You might have a whole, you know, they call like a new level, new devil type of thing. So you might have a whole nother belief system that comes up where now you're afraid to lose it all or whatever. So you can go back through the Align method and begin to run through this process again if you need to, so that you can uncover what else might be in the way, right? And then normalize that once you get there too. So it's a very powerful process that really takes you from A to Z, or A to N really. And it helps you to be able to really rewrite your money story and begin to normalize wealth in your life.
Please, 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 let's talk more about this normalizing nervous system, because I feel there is still too little knowledge about this. Like everywhere you can find information like how to manifest money, but not that much on how to sustain it. And for many people, that's like even they don't know about it. I remember my very first ever 5K month, where it's not in the world of of business owners. That's not that much. There are people telling me like 50K months and like one and like 6-figure months and like so on and so on and so on and so on and so on. But suddenly I made $5,000 in a month, and that was, I am Polish, if someone if you doesn't know, and that was actually how I used to make in a year in my back history. So I absolutely freaked out.
Yes.
I sabotaged myself, and then I saw that I started like turning my business into like shrinking instead of growing, because suddenly I had like absolutely different problems than my friends. All right, I had too much money, and the money that they were talking about was absolutely out of alignment. And seeing and thinking about my clients right now, there's like so many people in this situation, or people on a certain like pretty good financial level already, but they still want more and cannot go there because there's this guilt, like how can I even want more if I already have so much? Please, you are the person to tell us more on how to deal with it.
Definitely. So there's this was a missing key for me. Absolutely. So the way that you will notice if you have nervous system dysregulation around money is just some of the common, and this is not an exhaustive list, but some of the common things that will happen is, you know, you tend to have like a roller coaster months. Like you might have a big month and then a really low month, and then a decent month and then another low month, or, you know, you have like a roller coaster income in your life. So that's indicative that your nervous system isn't necessarily feeling safe in the sustained growth. So I want to touch on like what this looks like first, you know, from a tangible perspective. Also, this shows up in not really feeling comfortable. Like you said, all the people in your life weren't making that much, right? So it's like you almost feel uncomfortable or ashamed that you're making so much money than other people, right? Because we desire connection over most things in our life, because again, tied to survival mode, back when we were, living in tribes and things, right? Our ancestors, they needed to be part of the tribe. They needed to be connected. They needed to be a part of that, that tribe, right? And so the important thing to note is that we're still wired that way. And so when we are making more money, that's why they say, like, you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So getting around people who normalize this conversation around making a lot of money is actually going to help you to regulate your nervous system around it. It's called co-regulation. So when we get around people who are regulated around their money, this is what helps us to regulate ourselves. So that even the way that we met, right, being inside of a coaching container with a woman who, makes a lot of money, right, that normalizes that for us. That normalizes the conversation around these huge bumps, because you don't even
I
know
will
what's
stop
possible
people
until you
there.
know.
I will stop you here. I'm sorry, but this needs to be addressed. This is an advice I needed, and I really hesitated for a lot of time. Then I caught myself, and I was hesitating, like telling people there, because it felt like I begged them to hire me. But guys, people, this is just how it is. If
Yeah,
you struggle, get yourself a coach,
yeah,
someone who
1,000%.
will help you achieve what you want without struggle, without pain, without being lost, without questioning yourself, what are you doing, without losing your time on doing something that can backfire, and or like me, just like stop your process, stop your, like, don't do, just get yourself a coach. Sorry,
Yeah.
Rebecca, go on.
Yeah, no, to your point though, so many times, especially as entrepreneurs, we have these big visions. We know where we're going. We want something more. And when we tell that vision, there's a quote that says, like, don't tell your big dreams to small-minded people. There's a reason for that, because especially the ones who were responsible for our programming, like our parents, our caregivers, people who we love and we want to share these visions with, they don't necessarily understand. And I always say that they might not understand your dream because God didn't give them your vision, and that's okay. It's okay. So get around people who are going to encourage you, because have you ever told someone in your life, a big dream that you had, or a goal, or something that you wanted to accomplish, and they were like, well, that's not possible. I don't know how that's going to happen, or whatever, right? They have these negative limitations that they want to place upon you. The reason people do that, by the way, is because that's how they feel about themselves, of course. So they're just projecting onto you what they believe is possible for them. But when you get around people who have this bigger vision and can say, that's not that much money. That's a little bit of money. What do you mean? Like, let's help you go to the next level. You're like, wait, what? Like, the first time that I ever met my mentor, he asked me to set goals with him, and I was like, I couldn't believe the type of goals that we were setting. I was like, that's not even possible for me. And this is 10, 12 years ago or so. And, we set a 6-figure goal, and I was like, a year, and I'm like, I don't know how to, like, that's never going to happen. Right. And then it happened in 9 months, and then it's been, up ever since. So the reality is that we don't know what we don't know. And until we meet someone who shows us what's possible, we may not be able to understand how that's even possible to achieve it. So one of my favorite ways to regulate your nervous system around money is to get around people who have regulated theirs. There is a process that takes place. It's a chemical process in the brain. And we actually begin to mirror other people that we're around. They say, like, if your life looks like a circus, it's because you're hanging around clowns, right? So the same thing goes for the other side. It's like, if you are around people who have these big dreams, have these big visions, make a lot of money, you're just naturally going to pick up on the ways of being, their identity around money. It's almost like they're kind of giving you unconscious permission to show up as the most powerful version of you as well. So that's one of my favorite ways to regulate your nervous system around money, or in general. But there's so many different other ones, additional ones that you can use. And that's one of the things that I specialize in as well, is helping business business women and entrepreneurs, because nervous system dysregulation lives in the body. And so a lot of times people think that, they're so nervous to even go live, right? Like people have a really hard time showing up in their business, right? Because of their fear of being seen or their fear of being vulnerable. And they'll get these, butterflies in the stomach. I used to get this too, or sweaty palms, and you're just like, I can't do this. Like my body is so nervous. That's a nervous system response, right? It's your nervous
I
system
have it
telling you.
every time. I did so many times and I have it still all the time.
Oh yeah, right? But you learn how, and showing up, that's part of it, right? It's like that exposure therapy, but that's your nervous system telling you it doesn't feel safe in this. But you have done the work. You've done the inner work to say, no, we are safe in this. It's okay, right? Your nervous system has to be on board with this expansion. Otherwise, it's called upper limits as well. Like that's another term that a lot of people will use. It's based on a book by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap, which I highly recommend. But it talks about how we have a certain level of capacity that we're willing to accept in terms of money, in terms of joy, in terms of happiness, and it's all based around our baseline and where our system is set. So if you want to reset your financial thermostat, is what I call it, where you're kind of, most of us are programmed to be at a certain number, an income number, right? Where we might be used to making only between, I don't know, $50,000 and $60,000 a year. I'll just pull a number out, right? And if you want to then go and make 100,000 or 150,000, even if you accomplish that in 1 year, most of the time, the next year you're right back to that 50 to 60. Why? Because that's where your nervous system is comfortable. So there's a lot of things that we can uncover to help us see what we need to work through, what we need to get our nervous system on board with, and how we can do that. And yes, I can repeat the title of the book. So it's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and it talks all about upper limits and all of this stuff that I'm talking about. He doesn't go into as much about how to heal it. I haven't found many resources outside of, I've been researching this for about 5 years now, and there's not a ton of resources on how to actually heal the nervous system. You kind of have to work with maybe like a coach or programs. It's becoming more and more talked about in the online space. Because trust me, I've done the research. I knew this was the key for me. And once I healed this, everything changed for me.
There was also one question on other hints on stabilizing, maybe something without people, if you have any tool like that, because sometimes it looks like, okay, I'm here. All right, I have my unsupportive family with not so great income and friends with not so great income. And then the people and the community of people who, make a lot of money and that much money I want to be, they are in my computer. And it's not the same, right? It's not the same.
Yeah. So
is there something I can do kind of on my own?
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to address first though that it's not exactly the same, but it's still better than doing nothing, right? Because we have a part of our brain called mirror neurons that will activate in the presence of others, whether it's on camera, whether it's on Zoom, whether it's in the online community or not. So online communities are still very, very powerful. That's actually where most of my friends and most of my mentors and most of my people are. And I have learned a lot from that. So just make sure that we're not discounting that, because it is incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when we're looking at being able to do certain things on our own, some of the first things that we want to recognize is, how do you even feel when you open your bank account? When you open your bank account, when you log onto your bank account app, you begin to look at it, do you get nervous? Like I have people that tell me, I don't even look. I don't even want to see how much money I have or how much debt I have, or, that's going to be one of the things that you can do on your own, is just begin to normalize opening your bank account and just looking at it for what it is, right? Again, we have to know where we're starting in order to get to the next level. And the universe isn't going to necessarily want to bless us if we're not even grateful or thankful or willing to look at where we are right now. See, there's a reason that you're still here, and that's okay. There's a lesson for you to learn in this space, and that starts with acceptance. So one of the big things that you can do, I like to do something called money dates, where I just take my money on a date, and I literally will sit down, maybe with a glass of wine, or put on some soft music and light some candles or incense, and I will sit down and just look at where I'm at. I will just normalize my current situation around money, because again, I'm not going to get to the next level until I'm willing to look at where I am right now without judgment. I know that that might sound really hard, right? And in the beginning it might be, but this is all really important to make sure that our nervous system feels safe even looking at money. If we don't feel safe looking at it, can you imagine, like, right, if this is the relationship with money that you have and that you're building, you know, if you had any other relationship in your life, you're not even willing to look at that person, how much do you think that person is going to want to show up for you, right? And what kind of relationship is that if you're not even willing to look at them, right? So it's about building your relationship with your current financial situation that you're in and being willing to take a look at it and be grateful for where you are right now, no matter how little or how much you have. So that's going to be one of the big things, is just get comfortable with it. And when you start to feel your nervous system being activated, just breathing through that. Breath is actually an incredibly powerful tool to use in order to bring yourself down from an activated nervous state response. The reason that this is because when your nervous system is activated, usually you're going into several different nervous system responses. Very common ones that people notice are the fight or flight. So if you can imagine, right, the nervous system is activated based on a real or a perceived threat. Okay, so going back to like cavemen days, right, when they walked out of the cave and there's a bear, that's a real threat. That's a real threat. I have to fight or I have to flight, right? I either have to fight this thing off or run away from it. And so what happens though is when we feel those same bodily responses, when we open our bank account, we're literally sending a signal to our brain and our nervous system that this is something this is a threat. This is something I need to be afraid of. And so how much money are we really going to be comfortable having in our life when we're afraid of it? When at our core, we're actually afraid of it. So we have to be able to show our nervous system there's nothing to fear here. And so sometimes I will literally start to just breathe, because when your fight or flight is activated, you have essentially shallow breath, because you're like, again, running. If you imagine like you're either fighting or you're running, you're not, right? You're not breathing deeply. You're shallow, you're running and you're breathing shallow. So what you want to do is you want to send a signal to your nervous system that you're actually safe. It's okay. And so I'll begin breathing, and then I literally will tell myself, this is what I had to do. It's okay. You're just sitting in your office, you're on the computer, or you're going live, or you're doing, you know, whatever it is. When I feel these activations take place, I'll literally just say, there's nobody coming. There's no bear. There's no one here to hurt you. And it's almost like you have to kind of reparent yourself, because it's, and again, this will go down another path that we don't have to go into right now, but this is all tied to your ego and your inner child. So there's a part of you that doesn't feel safe in the activity that you are participating in. So it's all about making yourself feel safe around money, normalizing the conversation, normalizing being okay with where you are, looking at it, showing your body that you're safe. You want to come back to safety. And through breath and literally just proactively telling yourself, I'm okay, I'm safe. You want to even reconnect with like your five senses as well. So you can use, like, again, lighting a candle, grabbing your favorite drink, doing anything that's really going to bring you down from that activated state, that's going to help you to calm down. These are all going to be really important things to do. But that would be, in a long-winded form to answer that question, just normalizing your nervous system to even be comfortable looking at money and having conversations around money is going to do you so many wonders in the long run, because again, it's going to help you to feel safe around that conversation. And then that it opens you up for bringing more wealth into your life. Does that make sense? Does that help?
It makes a lot of sense, and it's incredibly helpful.
Good.
So I know if someone will like is there, right, and watches us from the beginning to an end, there's already a lot of to learn from and a lot of to take. Oh my God. I love the idea of dating your money. Just
It's
like
really fun.
a little question, like technical question. Do you take some like bills, like a cash, or do you open your bank account on your computer? How do you do it?
Yeah, I just
Or
opened
just
my bank
think
account.
about your money?
Yeah, I just open my accounts. I just open my accounts, and I have a spreadsheet that I use, so I track, like I'll literally look at how much money came in this month, how much money went out this month, how much money did I have excess to, save, how much money was allocated to this, did I maybe spend a little bit more than I would have wanted to, or did I save as much as I would have wanted to, or it's not about hoarding either. I mean, it's okay to spend your money, right? It's just making sure that you're doing it in a mindful place and not from a place of not feeling safe around it. It's okay to have money, right? It's okay. Another way to make sure that you're feeling safe in that process is just looking at, like, can I hold on to some of this money? Like, if as soon as you get paid, you already know where you want to spend all the money, that's indicative of, like, you're not really feeling that safe around it. So can you just hold on to it for a couple days? Can you just, before you go and make any impulse purchases or buy that next thing, can you just see how long you can hold that money in your bank account? Right? So it's like looking at those kinds of things and just realizing, I will literally talk to the energy of money and just be like, this is a relationship that I want to build. And I'm sorry that I haven't always shown up for you the way that you wanted to show up for me. And I'm willing to rebuild this, right? I'm willing to see things differently. I want this relationship to get better. So show me how I can do that. And I'll sit with, okay, and then I'll get inspired ideas of, well, maybe I want, you to be able to just allocate a little bit more money for self-care or for travel. And I'll get these inspired ideas and I'm like, oh, okay, that's where you want me to use my money. I like to have containers for the universe to put the money into, right? So I'll have different titled bank accounts where these are going to be used for. This one is called my financial freedom account, and that money can't go towards anything other than investing in, future things that are going to provide me income and financial freedom. So it's really opening your bank account, maybe having a spreadsheet or a notebook to start. Just grab a notebook, writing down, okay, how much came in, how much went out, how much do I have left, right? How much is in my savings? How much do I have in investments? How much do I have in debt? You can look at all of those things without judgment and literally just be grateful. That's what I would recommend, is no matter where you are right now, no matter what your past relationship with money is, just know that your current circumstances do not determine where you're going. They do not determine where you're going, right? And this is coming from someone who grew up incredibly poor. I have a daughter at 18 years old. I was on government assistance in my adult life as well, right? And now I'm where I am. So it's a matter of just being able to look at these things without judgment and be able to say, okay, this is where I am, and I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for this because I wouldn't be here if I hadn't gone through all of the things, right? And you don't know what it is that you're being prepared for. You don't know what your current situation is preparing you for. You might have this big expansion that's waiting for you on the other side, but the universe is inviting you to be okay with where you are right now. See, it's the resistance to where we are right now that holds us back. It's you holding on to why you aren't where you want to be already that is literally keeping you stuck in the paradigm that you're in right now. So if you're feeling stuck, let go of that resistance. Let go of that desire to be anywhere other than where you are right now. Because where you are right now is where you're supposed to be. It's meant to
Yeah.
be, you are meant to be here.
Just acknowledge and pour love into your current situation, whatever that is. This one single tool is so extremely powerful.
Yeah.
And this is great for you guys because we are here manifestation community. And this is the worst mistake that we all, I will say, we all continuously do. just denying where we are and fantasizing being ungrounded and being, I want to be there and that would be that, not wanting to see where's the starting point. And where you don't know where you are, like Rebecca said on the very beginning of this life, if you don't know where you are, how can you know where to move?
That's exactly it. Like I can't plug into my GPS, Pittsburgh International Airport and not put in where I'm like my home address, right? The GPS is not going to know where to tell me. If I just plug in Pittsburgh International Airport, okay, well, where are you starting? Right? We have to accept where we are and know that it's from this place that we're going to be guided. It's from this place that we're going to be able to be given the proper direction. But it's the resistance to where we are. The resistance to where we are that blocks us from the next level. Always. Always. There's nowhere to get, guys. I had to learn this the hard way. There's nowhere else to get. You are living your life right now. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. And there's a lesson for you here that the universe is calling you to learn before it's ready to give you the key to the next level. I look at it like a video game, right? If you think about a video game, it's like you can't pass that level until you've learned all of the lessons and the ways to pass it, right? So you pass when you learn the lesson. So what my biggest question to you is, if you're feeling resistance to where you are right now, is literally looking at what is the lesson? What is it? If I literally just, and again, this goes back to awareness, what is the lesson that the universe wants me to know and to learn on this level, at this stage of my life, right now, so that I can move forward to the next? And it might be that you need to, become aware of the things that you're saying to yourself and be more cognizant of that. It might be that you need to set, bigger goals or get around people who are moving in the same direction as where you want to go. It might be that you need to regulate your nervous system, right? It could be a slew of many different things, but it's all about letting go of the resistance. There's nowhere else to get. You're exactly where you need to be. Be okay with this. Be grateful for this. Because that gratitude is literally the energy of abundance. When you're quite literally telling your unconscious mind and your higher self, when you feel grateful for what you have, that you are great, that there's more than enough. And so what it does is it sends a signal to the universe to bring more. But when we're resistant, and can you imagine like just the difference in the energy, right? I don't have enough. There's not enough. There's not enough. Like think about a relationship where somebody else is telling you, right? If it were a human being, what you're doing is not enough. It's never enough. Can you imagine being on the other side of that? Would you keep showing up for someone who did that? Would you keep showing up?
No way.
Of course not. Of course not. So starting where you are, being grateful for where it is that you are, and that's what brings in the magnetic energy of abundance.
Yeah.
Someone had asked, is this going to be recorded?
Yes, it is. It will be there.
Awesome.
It will be there. It will be on my YouTube channel for sure also.
Yay. Awesome. This was wonderful. I so thank you for having me on here. I feel like this is such a good conversation, and I feel like our messages are so aligned. And it's really cool. And that's another testament, if I can just share, like the way that we even met, right? It's like we have to step out of our comfort zone. Cody and I are inside a membership together, working with a coach who's incredible. And, she reached out to me. And so guys, whenever you are feeling like, again, that's inspired action, right? Then we get to have this conversation. We get to connect. And you never know what the universe has on the other side of, fear and uncertainty. When you reach out to someone, when you take inspired action, when you move in the direction that you're being called to move in, there's so many amazing things that can unfold for you. And I believe that is showing up in that energy of, this is the declaration that I'm making to the universe. This is where I'm going. The universe will respond. It always does. It's universal law. It has to. It responds to who it is that you are, not what it is that you want. So show up as the version of you that is already achieving your goals, because that's going to emit the frequency of magnetism into your life. I promise you. That was the missing piece for me. And I know that it has been the same for so many of my clients and so many others. So show up in that. And if you need support, go get it. Like Cody said, work with manifestation coach, work with someone who's able to help you. I have a workshop that is free that I'm hosting next week. Come to the workshop. Like, be a part of the things that are going to help you to grow. There is nothing wrong with asking for support and asking for help. It doesn't make you weak. It actually shows you're strong. It actually shows you're strong to say, I'm vulnerable enough to say I don't have all the answers myself. And I'm willing to seek out someone to help me. And that's okay. That shows strength.
What a great message. What a great message. What a great way to end this live. Rebekah, thank you so much for showing up here, for talking to people. That was amazing.
Thank you.
One more time. It's being recorded. The recording will be out there. So if you just joined, because I see the situation happening here right now. If you just joined, like, don't worry, there will be a replay.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me share my message, because this is my desire. And these are things that I put out into the universe. And as a result, I have the opportunities that come to me that allow me to share. And so I'm so incredibly grateful for you, and I appreciate you. And thank you all for being with us and sharing your energy in your space. And I hope that you found this message helpful.
Thank you for showing up. That was absolutely great one more time. And I hope it's not our last live together. So
I hope so too. I don't think it will be. So we'll
it
have to
will be great to have you again.
Likewise.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me push that button one more time. Thank you. It was amazing.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.